We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 95 of 100 Days of Code. And today we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. We looked at useref, we looked at some quirks about useEffect, and today we're going to tie it all together. But we cannot do that alone. We need support. We need someone to break down everything for us, to ask the smart questions. And this person is Leon Andersen. Leon, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing great. And I'm having some audio issues. 1 second. Test. Test. Oh yeah, now it sounds better. Yeah, hello everyone. Once again, I am doing excited because it's a cool stuff that we learned over the past few days with with useEffect, with the cleanup function, and now I'm curious what the cleanup function is all about, and I'm looking forward to getting the master's explanation.
Then let's jump into it. So just a quick recap, because we recapped all the stuff over the past few days. So if you missed those, go watch the streams. What are you waiting for? Not now though, after this one. So pick up this knowledge first, then pick up on the stuff that you missed, and then watch this again to learn. And if you're watching the recording, join us live. It's always fun. And if you're watching live, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We will definitely answer them. That being said, yesterday we looked at cleanup from useEffect. So when you return a function from useEffect, it is running whenever the component unmounts or when the value in the dependency area changes. And we looked at, we had a refresher on basically intervals. So there's something called setTimeout that you hopefully know about. If not, it's a simple function that takes into arguments. First one is the callback, second one is the time to wait. And after this time, the callback is being executed. And setInterval is similar, with the only difference is that it's being executed, the callback's being executed over and over again. And in order to stop it, you need to save the interval in a variable, and then you need to call the clearInterval function on it. And that's what we did yesterday in here, but this code is still wrong. This is not working this way. So we need to fix this code. And we talked about the cleanup function here, about the return, and that's how we got into the cleanup example, because I realized we need to make sure that people understand that part about useEffect too. But now we're working on this custom hook, and yeah, our goal is to create a little second counter that basically ticks every second. And we thought about, okay, we can save the current seconds here in the use state, but we thought, okay, how do we do it that it increments the number of seconds every second? And we thought, okay, it would be cool if we had a hook called useInterval that takes in a callback and executes this callback every interval, which we set here to 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1,000 seconds. And now that we came up with our Dream API, we are jumping into the implementation. And the background is is a series of videos on useref. So the spoilers, in order to solve this, we will need a useref. So let's first of all, we don't want to clean this interval. We don't want to delete it right away, right? We want to clean it up when we are actually cleaning up the useEffect. So we need to move the clearInterval into the cleanup function. And then the next thing that we need to do is we need to actually deal with our little callback here, because right now, if it changes, it is not being updated here. And also it is a different callback in every render. But we want to have the same callback, a reference to the same callback in every single render of this useInterval hook. So the way that we can do it is we can say const saved callback is equal to useref, because if you guys watched the first sessions, then you know that useref is a way to save state where the value stays the same even between renders, and even and it also changing it doesn't cause a re-render of the component. And we need a second use effect that is actually updating our saved callback right here. So whenever this callback changes, that is when we want to put a new saved callback in here. And the way that we do that is we say saved callback dot current equals to callback. And now we don't want to call the current callback. We want to actually call the saved callback. So what we can do here is we can put in a little function right here. We can say saved callback dot current like this. And that is it. That is our function. So let's see if it works when we render it. So we have our second counter and we put it into our user interface here. Ooh, it's working. 3, 4, 5. And that's it. So let's recap. What do we need useEffect here, useref here for? So what we need useref in this example for is we want to have a constant reference to the same callback all the time. And we only want to change this reference when the callback changes. You couldn't do that with setState because setState does not keep a reference to literally the same value behind the scenes like useref is doing it. So yeah, that is the second use case for useref. That being said, any questions?
What do we need the callback function for in the first place? Do we trying to understand because the second use interval. Can you scroll up again? Yeah, because we're using, when we execute the use interval function, we put in basically a set interval function as the and in order to use it, wait, why? So I didn't fully get the point of it's always, we have to have always the same callback, not a different one. Instead of because we want to keep building on each previous interval, so we don't restart each time, or
Yeah, that is pretty much the case. So there's this neat little article called Making Set Interval Declarative with React, which is from Overreacted. I don't know if I have mentioned that, but it's the blog from Dan Abramov that is worth reading once you feel comfortable with React to get into some nitty-gritty details. And in it, he explains in detail the bugs that happen if you're not using useref here. That would take too much time to go into the depth, but you are onto the right track. So if you save use callback, for example, in state, then you can have bugs where the seconds don't increment or they always reset to 0, stuff like that.
got it. And I didn't know that we can use use effect multiple times in the same function. Why is that possible? I don't know. Is there anything special to that?
The only thing that you need to remember is that React always calls all hooks in the order that they happen. So this is the first one, this is the second one, and this is the third one. And this is something you have to keep in the back of your mind in case they maybe are referencing things that the other one is changing.
Okay. I mean, the cleanup is clear to me, but we didn't use it yet, right?
But we're using it here at the bottom where we return it. that is the same code that we looked at with the other cleanup example, where it is executing that function when the milliseconds change.
Okay, I thought it's about. Wait a second. I thought it's about stopping the intervals from going on, and we didn't stop them yet. They are still running.
Where yes, okay, yeah. Sorry, I took your comment as we didn't use the code for the clear interval yet, but it's hooked up. It just hasn't executed yet. But that's correct. Yeah, it wasn't executed in this example here because for that we would need to add some code that could maybe change the seconds here, and only if they change, that is when this code would be called.
So only when the delay in milliseconds does the use effect re-render, or is there anything else that can make it wait, re-render or wait executed second callback, or yeah, is there anything else that could make it execute that second callback?
So I would call it the return function or the cleanup function because it's not a second callback. Right? A second callback would be to add an argument here and put another callback in here. That being said, the use cases are exactly when the values in the dependency array changes, or when the use effect disappears, for example, because the component using these use effects unmounts, or in our case, when this component would be unmounting, then its custom hook here would also go away, which would make these two use effects go away, which would execute their respective cleanup functions. This one doesn't have one, but this one has this one.
I'm trying to really internalize. I mean, I probably don't have to internalize it, but I'm trying to go through the, like, basically you linked the callbacks and saved callbacks from element to element. I'm trying to follow the path once again to make it really clear in my mind. Basically, we are executing the use interval hook inside of something that's down below, which I can't see it. Is it in the second counter component? Yeah, okay. So we're executing it with the callback function of basically a set interval, right?
I don't know if I understood that question. I'm sorry.
So in the use interval, we're using a wait, can you go to where we have the set seconds function? Where we set seconds. Got it. That's the use state. I thought it was the same as set interval, which is this the brother of set timeout. I thought that was that was it. Okay, so basically, okay, let me go once again through it. Use effect set interval. Use interval. Okay, can you scroll up again, please, to use interval? Okay. So we're taking in well, the callback function in use interval is just the incrementation of seconds, right?
Yes, so the callback that's being passed in is the function that we define here, which is just, as you said, incrementing the seconds.
Okay, so this is where everything gets basically executed, and then we can see what actually gets executed from line 92, taking in that increment function and the milliseconds. The increment function is is basically used to define saved callback dot current. Wait, how? So 96, we see save callback dot current equals callback. Does this take in callback from use interval and then basically write what saved callback dot current should what the value of saved callback dot current should be?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Sometimes it's a bit confusing to me when like what's on which side of the equal signs. Would it be possible? Like, would we get the same outcome if we have callback equals save callback dot current in that line?
No, we always assign values from right to left.
Okay. So this way we assign the value of use ref at the same time. I don't know. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other value of use ref than dot current that is helpful, or is this the main property that we can assign value to?
Yeah, it's the only property that you can assign values to.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, and then basically that's too fast. Anyway, that was too fast for me with rolling, but anyway, so then basically we use save callback dot current again inside of the use effect, which actually uses the set interval, which is our main. No, not set. What set? Yeah, set interval, brother of set timeout in line 100, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just a bit confused with set interval and set seconds. So yeah, this is basically the set interval is basically the meat of our the main the essence of what we're doing, right?
Yes, so we're basically building a custom hook around the native JavaScript set interval function.
Okay, and you said something about dream interval, dream interval, dream API. Can you explain that concept? To me, it sounded a bit like step in planning how to build the hook or what you want.
Yeah, of course. So that is an approach that we will dive a lot more deeper into when we start using test-driven development. But the main gist behind programming is always you want to think about, okay, what would be the easiest code that I could write here in order to make my desired change? There's actually a concept by Kent Beck. Well, let me pull it up. Make the easy change. Where is it? Here. So this tweet right here, it's literally the best wisdom ever when it comes to programming. Oh, look, real life. And it is for each desired change, make the change easy. Warning, this may be hard. Then make the easy change. And if we apply that to our use case, imagine we didn't have anything here. And we know, okay, we have some seconds in a state and we want this state to update every second. If you could literally come up with your Dream API, you know there are two steps. You need to tell the Dream function what should happen every interval and what that interval should be. So that is how you can come up with, okay, the name could in the beginning be foo, right? And then you're like, okay, I want to be able to define something that happens every interval, which in our case would be to set the seconds to whatever the previous value was plus one. And then the second thing would be to set the interval. Like when should this happen? In our case, it should happen every second. So we could write it like this. If we know that we want to put in the time in milliseconds, we could also put one if we know that our abstraction should only take in a value in seconds or whatever. Right. And then you're like, okay, foo is a dumb name. Let me give it a more descriptive name like use interval. But that is basically how you code. And how does it encapsulate this wisdom? So first of all, for each desired change, make the change easy. That is exactly what we're thinking about here. We're thinking about, okay, how can we make the change easy? But making this change easy is actually hard, just as he warned in his tweet. He said, warning, this may be hard. And we can see here, especially if you haven't used useref and useEffect. So if you as you're getting more experience, this is actually considered an easy change. But for someone who's new to all of these concepts, this is a hard change, right? You have to learn about useref, you have to learn about useEffect, you have to learn about set interval, and you have to learn about the cleanup function. So making the change easy was actually kind of hard. But then once we enabled the easy change, then we just make the easy change. So one more time, for each desired change, make the change easy. Warning, this may be hard. Then make the easy change. And this part, make the change easy, is what I called think about what would be the dream function, your dream API.
Okay, but how? What is why is this an API? Because we can set the how many milliseconds it's going to be, or yeah, because it's our the part of this code where we can do the most important macro settings in, or is that a good description? I don't know.
So API is just something that people use as a synonym kind of for also the way that you can use a function. So if people say, hey, what is the API of, for example, React, right? Then you could say, well, React has JSX, React has hooks, React has function components. That is the API of React. And if you're like, okay, what is the API of useState? You're like, well, useState takes in some value and then it returns an array where you can destructure the current value and a function to set new values. And in our case, it was like, okay, what is the API of the function that we want to create? We thought of it ourselves. We just came up with it. And this is just the easiest API for us to make our change very easy. But you could also say, hey, we want to think about how, like if you could create a dream function, how would you be able to use that function?
So in this case, the API is just what's inside of use interval, not including the. I mean, yeah, it's the content of use interval is the API of that hook, right?
No, API is always what you see from the outside, and that's a very crucial distinction. So, for example, the reason why you, for example, said you create a REST API when you learned about Express was because the API is the application programming interface. In other words, it is the interface that the coder sees, right? You as the coder, if you, for example, talk to, let's say you implement payment in an app and you want to integrate with Stripe, you don't need to know how Stripe works behind the scenes. You only need to know Stripe's API. You only need to know, hey, with this function, I send money from one bank account to a different bank account, right? And in our case, the API is referencing the arguments of use interval. You only need to know that the use interval takes in two arguments. The first is the callback, and the second one is the interval, like when this callback should be executed.
Yes, with inside, I actually meant inside of the brackets. So that's exactly what you described. So and also you described what I meant before, where I said like because in here we can make the macro changes. It's basically as far as if I understood this correctly, because with these arguments, this is where I can make the most like if like changing, for example, the incremental steps and the speed of increments, which are the main controllers basically of this whole hook or function.
Got it. Yes, yeah. Then I just misunderstood inside. But yeah, you're right. It's the stuff that you call the function with, basically, so it's inside the round brackets. Yes.
Yeah, sometimes my my descriptive capabilities need a little tune up, but yeah, awesome, interesting. Looking forward to those TDD concepts, and now I know that API is not just the classic. Doesn't have just the classic meaning of, for example, the AWS API or what did we have, like random dad joke generator API or Pokemon name API or what Star Wars name API, stuff like that, but also API of individual, like API of hooks, API of functions and stuff like that. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's it. Any last epiphanies, questions, thoughts?
I think so far that's it should be it. Well, today I also thought a bit about how Cold taught me the what was it exactly what he was teaching. I think he was teaching exactly when he was teaching use state. At first, he showed how it goes without or what happens without use state, where basically we didn't have any renders, but we did have some changes visible inside of the console. That's not the same as as what we saw in the console with use ref, right?
I haven't seen how Call did teach what you were just referring to, so I don't know.
I think it was basically we incremented. We had like a wait. Maybe he was just console.logging stuff out to see that there's something happening when we click it. Yeah, I guess I would have to look it up exactly what he was using as a counterexample in this case. But there were some updates visible inside of the console. Yeah, I maybe look into it at some point, but I guess it's not that important because I don't think I need it. I probably don't need it in the near future. But yeah, I guess the most important part is just to know the use cases of useRef and some of the quirks, and yeah, and then knowing if I need further understanding where to go. Yes.
Sweet. So do you want to, lastly, before we end this, share what you're going to look at in the coming days?
Well, next, JS.
Nice. So up next is Next.js. That being said, thank you everyone for watching. If you watch the recording, join us live. If you want to learn more about Next.js, which is the most popular framework out there, we're first going to look into the pages directory. So even though there's already the app directory out, we're first gonna do the quote unquote legacy stuff because that's still the most popular and people aren't too happy about the app directory. I personally love it, but yeah, so we're going to look at pages about Next.js. It's very valuable knowledge. So join us live. And if you're already joining us live, tune in tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that and the day after that and so on, because we're streaming daily. Well, thank everyone for watching. This has been day 95 of 100 Days of Code with
me and
Aleph Mill. And I'll say his name again. It's Leon Andersen, aka the Quack Padawan. Thank you, everyone.
may the code be with you.
May the call be with you too.